the videos fail and they blame the video. And my whole thing is video accelerates the sales process. It accelerates deal velocity. You can get someone through your pipeline faster if you are using video throughout that.
Welcome back to what I hope is your favorite go-to source for business wisdom, the Master Your Business podcast. I'm Deirdre Martin, your guide on this journey to business mastery. Today's episode is all about showing you how to maximize the power of video content in your business journey. Now, if you're thinking, but Deirdre, I'm not natural in front of the camera, or Deirdre, I'm not a movie star, how can I be effective on camera? Well, to answer that and allay your fears, we've brought on board an absolutely remarkable expert in the field, a maestro who has been reshaping the narrative around video content creation and turning everyday people into video stars. Please welcome Chris Bogue to our show. Chris is a writer, a video coach, and believe it or not, a specialist in sales and sketch comedy. Talk about a multi-talented genius. He's been helping people like you and me sound natural and truly intelligent on camera. Well, at least I hope I do. But he helps us bring out the best of our abilities and adds a pinch of fun to the whole thing. With Chris's unique improv-based approach to content creation and sales, you'll learn how to be direct, supportive, and entertaining all at the same time. His mantra? Be authentic, be engaging, and most importantly, be yourself, because that's what your audience will connect with the most. Why might you want to do more video? Well, if you can help elevate your engagement online, and if you could maybe get an increase in that engagement, if you could generate some extra sales or leads, then that might be why. So in this episode, Chris also talks about how to include videos into your sales process away from social media. This isn't just about going viral on LinkedIn or TikTok or Instagram or wherever. So stick with us because we're about to embark on an unforgettable ride with Chris. And hey, before it's lights, camera, and action, I love saying that, by the way, could you please do us a favor? If you're enjoying the Master Your Business podcast, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show. Your support means the world to us, and it's the best way for us to keep bringing you the tips and expert advice that helps you to master your business. Chris, I am so excited to have you join us on the Master Your Business show. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me.
Amazing. So, Chris, I would love for you to share with people listening. Tell us about your business. Where are you at? Why are you doing what you're doing? It's incredible. So let's hear it from the horse's mouth. Bring it on.
Yeah. So I like to say everything you see me doing out here on video is kind of an accident. I never thought I would start my own business. It was really just the first time in my life when I saw my moment, I saw my lane, and I had to go for it. Anybody in the audience is unfamiliar with me. I do a lot of content for my business. I'm a video coach. So I coach people to sell on video. I coach sales teams to use video, largely in place of cold calling. I also coach entrepreneurs and content marketers how to get on video and create video content that's going to support their brand. So my background was in sales. I was doing sales for a long time. I was doing education, technology sales, so very long, complicated, frustrating sale. And COVID happened. So at the time, the three best ways to sell to my audience was cold call their office, visit them on campus, or network with them at an educational conference. So these people were no longer in their offices. All my trips were canceled. All my conferences were canceled. Still had to hit my quota. So started getting on video. The top sellers on my team would maybe make 3 or 4 videos a week, and I could make 25 videos in an afternoon. I would make 25 videos, little 30-second videos to my prospects. 25 videos, I'd usually set about 5 meetings. And I quickly realized that this was powerful stuff, this short video thing. And all of a sudden, my background that I thought was worthless became much more valuable because I used to be a sketch comedian at Chicago's Second City Theater. So I have a lot of experience writing and directing and working with other people to get a good performance out of them. And I've also done some work on television. So I've just had more, and some web series, and I've had more time in front of a camera than most salespeople. Salespeople are used to performing on stage usually. It's a very different type of performance. And yeah, it was kind of this moment where I was just like, you know what? I see that this is going to be more and more important over time, especially as this new generation is, graduating college and getting full-time jobs. They just have a more casual relationship with video. They have the skills that their bosses don't have. I think people are going to need to learn how to do this. And this is my full-time job now. So I quit. I walked out of there. I started my business. I started getting coaching and consulting clients. And 2.5 years later, I am having the most fun I've ever had in my life. And yeah, I think I picked the right niche to bet on, because every day I only see more people doing video, not fewer.
Amazing. I love that story. And I've got so many questions that I want to go back and ask you about all of that. Firstly, did you say like 25 videos in one afternoon? Is that how many you were making? What?
Yeah.
How on earth were you doing that? Tell me.
It's all about your list, right? So I don't advise people to make 25 in one sitting anymore. I was doing a type of sale where you're just making hundreds of calls. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're trying to fill your pipeline with video, I suggest to my clients to do 5 videos at a time. If 5 is too much, do 3. But if you've got a list of people and they've all got the same job title, or they're all in the same industry, or maybe it's the same size business, or they're all dealing with the same problem, your message is going to be pretty similar for each of them, right? And the trick to video for business is it's not about you. If I send a 60-second video to a prospect, even though it's just me on camera, I am not the main character of that video. My buyer is the main character. I am the supporting character. But I would say it is a 60-second video about them. I'm looking straight into the camera lens the entire time. And I'm talking to the camera like it's a person sitting across the table from me having coffee. Because it kind of is, no matter who you're selling to, there's a good chance someone's going to watch that video. They're sitting in their living room wearing pajama pants. And I just find that business video is so formal and stuffy. If you go in there with a conversational tone and you use the word you, say you a lot. Hey, I'm reaching out to you. Here's what I noticed about your business. Here's what I noticed about your goals and values. I know here's something you're striving towards. Here's why I think we should chat. You can keep your message very concise, and you can get the buyer to watch the full thing. And in a world of automation and, just inboxes full of thousands and thousands of cold emails, taking a moment to notice somebody and to speak to them directly is such a rare thing that it's hard to ignore.
That's so powerful. And I completely agree with you. That's an exercise that I give my clients, is go back and look at your website and how many times you've written I, we, our, us, my, and replace that with you, your, and you and your, basically. And they're like, oh, wow. But yeah, I totally agree with you overall with that. So 5 videos at a time. And so there's a few other things that you mentioned at the start, but I want to just drill down into those 5 videos at a time if I can, Chris, because I want to know, like, okay, so how long should the videos be? What should I do to prepare? How could I get really comfortable on the camera? Because I hate being on camera. If anybody watches me, I'm on camera a lot, but I hate being on camera. And it freaks me out, especially being live. I get so nervous. So what tips have you got for people like me who know they need to be on video but hate it, and can help us overcome that? Please share. Please share.
Yeah, so there's a few things. One, there is just a learning curve, right? You meet any sales expert, any sales trainer who's out there, teaching you how to make cold calls. They did not become a master of cold calling in the night. Usually that's a skill that sellers really only master after they've been doing it for at least a couple years. So I see all these sales professionals try video for a couple weeks and give up. And it's like, hey, you're not going to get it perfect immediately. And that's okay. You wouldn't give up after 5 cold calls, right? You would go make some more cold calls. So like, you got to start by tempering your expectations a little bit. And this might be an unpleasant answer, but you just got to watch yourself on video. And when you start squirming, you have to ask yourself why. In my case, we were going back to like, I was a stage performer. I was a speech team kid, and I won a lot of like awards and stuff for public speaking and everything. I'm very big and expressive on stage. And when I first started doing video, I was doing too much. I remember I did like a network television stint. I was on live TV, and they mic'd me up, and I was going through and I was talking, and they stopped and they go, "Why are you shouting at me?" And you have to remember, on video, it's much different than it is in person. In person, you're probably on a stage. There's probably people in the back of the room that are very far away. You have to be very overly expressive. You have to overly enunciate everything. You have to project to make sure the back of the room hits you or hears you. These microphones are incredibly sensitive, and HD cameras pick up very subtle movements of the eyes and mouth. And it actually feels unnatural, but the easiest tip I can give anyone to look better on video is to always look straight into the camera lens. So if you're in a Zoom call, it's normal to want to look at your own appearance. You want to see how you're doing. It's normal to look at the faces of the other people in the room, because you want to see if your message is resonating with them. But that's going to cause all these little micro movements in your eyes that read like nervousness to the audience. So right now, if anybody's watching the visuals on this, it looks like I'm looking straight into your eyes, but I'm actually looking straight at the green light on my camera, and it's unnatural.
Does it look like I'm looking straight into your eyes?
I think so.
Yeah, I've got you minimized under my camera. That's my little Zoom trick, so that like you're right there, but I can look at you and make it look like I'm looking into the camera too. That's my Zoom trick.
Yeah, and again, it is very natural to worry about your physical appearance when you are putting your image out there for public consumption. But you have to remember that that is not what your audience cares about. If you look at the top creators on YouTube, if you pull up a list, they are all different ages, all different genders, all different body types. The audience, they care about if what you're saying is relevant to them. They care about your knowledge. They care about your personality and the relationship you have with them. They're not thinking about your appearance as critically as you are, and the easy trick for this too is like, if you're ever like, your phone, everybody's phone, if you've got at least an iPhone 7 or better, you have a fantastic HD camera already in your pocket. If you have a tripod and you can set it up, look at the lens on the back of your phone instead of your screen. The more you are thinking purely about your message and how you can connect with your audience, the more confident you're going to look. And again, people, they fixate too much on themselves, and they think about all the little problems they have with their appearance. And the only thing I can say to them is, your audience might like you more than you like you. You kind of have to just do it enough for you to be able to like separate your own feelings about yourself from how you think about your performance.
I love that. And you know what I'm hearing there a lot, actually, throughout everything since you started talking today, is resilience. That's what I'm hearing here, because whether you're cold calling or, you're doing something for a while, it takes that bit of practice to get going. Like you said, you're not going to get the hang of cold calls and selling in year one, or maybe not even year two, but year three, that's when you get really good at it. And so practice, 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 practice. That's got to help, right? So let me see if I got these other points, because you've been making some really great points here, Chris. I want to make sure I've captured them right. So temper your expectations. That's number one. If you start squirming in your seat, start asking why. I know why I do it. I know why I've figured that out. Don't fixate on yourself. That's a good one. And then look into the camera. That's the other one. Have I missed any?
No, I think that's a pretty good recap. I do think this is also a good pivot to talk about the audience, because the audience is going to give you what you need. Right. So oftentimes people, when I work with them, they've got 50 million ideas. They don't know where to start. They don't want to go too specific. They don't want to go too obvious. And I tell everybody the same thing. I go, you do not understand what good content is. I do not understand what good content is. The audience is going to reveal that to us. So with a business, I always say there's two types of video content you can make. It's who are we? And here's the problem we solve, right? Those are two places any business can start from. You can humanize the people who actually do the work. If you're in a service industry, you are letting them see what they are paying for, your work ethic, your personality, your attitude, and then here's the problem that we solve, right? So whatever problem you solve, somebody is already out there talking about it, right? Somebody is already looking for articles on it. They're already listening for podcasts about it. Find where your people are already and start getting into the conversation with them. And you got to start by setting some sort of benchmark for yourself. I know when I started, I was doing like 2 to 4 videos a week. And, anybody who's seen my content lately, I do a lot of comedy and myself. I do a lot of sketch comedy. That was not how I started. I had been on a 3-year creative dry spell. I didn't think I was ever going to do comedy again. I was mostly talking about sales. I was talking about how to make cold calls and how to send cold emails, and it was doing okay. But I would have all these little moments where I'd be talking about how to do a cold call, and then it would cut to a really nervous version of me on the phone with a really impatient version of me. And one thing I learned was get very curious about who's engaging with your stuff at the start. So I do a lot of my stuff on LinkedIn. Early on, whenever anybody would comment, whenever anybody would click the like button, I would send them a DM thanking them. And I would say, by the way, I'm collecting feedback to try to improve the show. Can you let me know if there was anything that resonated with you in that video? And that was really helpful for figuring out which topics were landing with my audience. But the theme that I noticed was it didn't matter if they were a sales rep or a sales leader or a founder or a CEO or somebody I used to do comedy with. Everybody was like, that little cutaway thing you did was really funny. Could you do more of that? And suddenly that part of me that I thought was too risky to reveal to my audience, I realized wasn't a risk at all. And I could really lean into that. But again, the only reason why I was able to learn that was because one, I opened a dialogue with my audience. I actually reached out and asked the people who were engaging with me for feedback. And I'm also very curious about the data. So if I am coaching content creators, sometimes companies will hire me to launch a team of content creators. I call that ensemble training, because it's 8 storytellers, 1 story. But yeah, we go out there, you find your avenue, you find the topics you're going to be talking about regularly, you start putting stuff out there every week. And then when one of them lands, eventually something is going to overperform. It's going to do better. It's going to get more likes or more shares or more views or whatever. Then you have to get very curious. And maybe it's the topic, maybe it's your point of view, maybe it's the format that you wrote it in or the format that you filmed it in. But you have to say, okay, my audience really likes this more than my other content. So how can I give them more of this? How can I spend more time in this point of view? How can I cover this topic from a different angle? Maybe I'm going to go one step deeper into this. But whatever it is, I just got the standing ovation. So I know this is like a thing that's going to work. And, once you have that, once you've got a handful of topics that resonate with your audience, that works, that drives engagement, that drives inbounds, then it becomes a lot easier. Because it's like, oh, hey, I'm going to play to this group again. I'm going to lean back into this topic. But though early on, you're going to have to just start doing stuff. And that's why you got to stick with what you know. And if you're a business owner and you find yourself answering the same questions over and over and over again, just go make a piece of video content about it and see how it lands.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I love that. Get curious, figure out if it was the topic, was it the point of view, or was it the format? Because you can repurpose that in so many ways once you know why, right? And something that's really striking me, Chris, here on this note is that, and you spoke about it earlier, where you were making short sales videos, and now you're talking about being on LinkedIn. Like, there are loads of different ways that people can use video in business. Could you maybe talk us through those? Because I don't think everybody is leveraging all of those options. I know I'm surely not. I'm on LinkedIn. I post a video on LinkedIn twice a week, and that's it. But where else could I be doing video, or what are the other alternatives?
So many places. There's so many places to utilize video. I use video in every step of my business processes. So I mentioned the cold outreach stuff because, like, businesses always want more pipeline. You always want to be reaching out to new people. I've found even if somebody rejects my video, they're not going to be like, do not call, like, put me on the do not call list. I hate you. They're not going to swear at me. They're going to be like, oh, you know what? I'm not interested, but thanks for reaching out. But video, like every single stage of the process, you can use video. So cold outreach is the hardest, right? Getting new meetings is the hardest. Once you have stuff already in the pipeline, that's another great use for video. So this is a very common situation. Anybody who sells, whether you're an entrepreneur or a sales professional, you will be in a situation where you set a meeting with somebody and you're all excited, and then they cancel on you, or they reschedule, or they ghost you. I have found that sending a 15-second video a couple of days before a meeting drastically increases my show rates.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because most people get an automated calendar invite being like, hey, by the way, you're supposed to be in a meeting with this person. I have found that if you pop on a video, especially if, like, let's say you set a meeting with somebody and they're not going to meet with you for like 2 weeks, time kills deals. So the longer you're going to go before seeing them, the more likely it is that they're not going to show up. And if you just pop onto the camera and you're like, hey, Chris, looking forward to chatting with you this Thursday. Here's one thing I want you to keep in mind, and I'll see you at 11 a.m. Central. They are statistically much more likely to show up because they've seen a human being talking straight to them, expecting them to be there.
And so let me ask a question, because I've seen videos, or I've received videos from some big influencers, Chris, and I don't know, did they use like a software like BombBomb or one of those where it picks up the recipient's name, I think, and so you can record the same snippet and then it will send out the same video, but will actually say, hey Chris, hey Deirdre, and all of those things. Does that exist, or am I totally dreaming? That
does exist. That's not what I do, though.
You make it authentic because you literally record it for each person, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and again, I'll record, like, I guess the thing is, like, so there's two types of videos we've been talking about here, right? There's one-to-one, and then there's one-to-many.
Mm-hmm.
My thing is, if it's a one-to-one video, I am making it for that one person. If it's a one-to-many video, it's probably better off as content. you know. But if I am emailing out a one-to-many video, I don't pretend like it's a one-to-one video. And that's what those companies are doing. They're making a really generic video and they're using deepfake technology to pretend like they made it just for you. But audiences are smart. And the second the audience picks up on the fact that it's automated, suddenly there's not the level of reciprocity that you know, like if I send you an automated message, it's very easy for you to ignore that, you know. Whereas if I stop by your office and I knock on the door and I'm like, hey, you got a quick second, that's very hard to just ignore me.
Yeah,
you're not going to just sit there and wait till I go away. You know, you'll say something. And yeah, that's kind of the human psychology I'm going for here. Now, granted, I usually don't send the video as a first step. You know, usually I am doing text-based communications, emails, LinkedIn DMs. You know, I do a lot of content, and basically, like, I have a rolling live stream where it's like I'm always having live stream guests on. I make a lot of promotional content. I make funny trailers to hype up the event. And, you know, I usually get a few hundred people attending each of them. And yeah, what I do is like I take the guest list and I look through, and if there's somebody who runs a sales team or somebody who'd be a good fit for my coaching and I see they're on the attending list, then they get the 30-second video. Just being like, hey, Chris, I saw you were on the RSVP list and wanted to see how much video your company was doing. You know, and if you're interested in getting more video out there and having some fun with it, I'd love to talk with you about my training. So respond to this message with anything if you want to chat, and I'll see you at the show tomorrow.
I love that, Chris. That's so nice, and actually it's so authentic as well. I love that. And I have to say, right, about that technology, I think I was more impressed with the software than the message, because I saw through the authenticity of it, but I was like, ooh, software. I love software. This is cool software, you know. But I love the authenticity in terms of what you're doing. And I love that you're adding that into your steps for events and things like that. That's a great idea. You might find me using that one going forward, Chris. Thank you for the inspiration.
Yeah. Well, again, it's like you want to, when you do a lot of sales, you learn that taking meetings with the wrong people really wastes your time. You know, if you are going with people, if you're strong arming people into a meeting that they don't really want to be at, or they're not a really great fit for, that's worse than doing nothing. You know, you are spending time and effort and energy prepping for that. So it's like with the comedy, with the live events, if you're listening to the audio version of this, you can't see it, but I've got a saxophone behind me in the background. These are all little things that I'm doing to attract the type of person that is best for me to sell to. And if you don't like the comedy, if you don't like the creative angle of it, you're probably not going to start clicking the like button in the first place. You're probably not going to come to my live events in the first place. But if you do, if somebody's a fan of the show, if somebody's a fan of what I do, if they're constantly engaging with me, they have the type of job title and the type of budget that I can sell into, and I see they've clicked the yes button to attend an event I'm coming to, that is the perfect type of person to send a short little video for to get a meeting. And, you know, my sales method is like, I classify my leads as green, yellow, or red. So green is somebody who has a greater than 50% chance of taking a meeting with me. Oftentimes, this is a person who has already expressed interest in paying me. They've told me, yeah, I'm thinking about something like this. If I have a green lead, the only question is, why are they not closed yet? And they are getting a video for sure. A yellow lead, that's a coin flip, right? 50-50. They check all the right boxes. They got the job title. They got the personality of a type of person I could sell to, but I have not collected any signals yet about which way they would go. Yellow leads get a video. Red leads, you can probably imagine, are the people who have a less than 50% chance of taking a meeting with me. These are people who've already told me no. These are people who have been ignoring my calls and emails. These are people who ghost meetings on me. I do not make custom videos for the red leads. B2B sellers tend to do this the opposite way.
Yeah.
They're calling the green and the yellow leads, and they only get on video when they are desperately chasing somebody who doesn't want to speak to them. And they make the videos for people that aren't interested in speaking to them in the first place. The videos fail and they blame the video. And yeah, my whole thing is like, video accelerates the sales process. It accelerates deal velocity. You can get someone through your pipeline faster if you are using video throughout that. And yeah, your best bet with video is to send it to somebody who is likely to watch it and respond to it.
Okay, I've got a question I have to ask you on this, right? Because a lot of the people listening, they may be, you know, CEOs of a limited company and they're professional service providers. So they could be attorneys, they could be financial brokers, things like that. And I love that you include comedy in your videos. And I think, you know, I come from a corporate background, but I'm trying to lose that corporate tone and just like actually be me. And the podcast has been a great medium for me to be able to really do that some more. But I think, you know, for those people who are really professional, how can they do those messages in a nice personalized way without coming off like being so dry or boring, you know, or like, how can they make it more interesting is what I'm getting at. And how can they make it look professional so that it ties in with their brand? And just 10 out of 10 for you having the right stuff behind it, by the way, for attracting the right people. There's another podcast episode about that. We'll talk about that later. But no, seriously. So for those professional people, how can they put out a video or send a personalized video to one of those green people or amber people so that those people respond?
Yeah, so what I would say is I put a lot of comedy into my marketing videos. I do not put any comedy into these sales videos. I am always talking directly to one other person. The reason why I have comedy in my stuff is because I was a sketch comedian for 15 years, and I wouldn't be being true to myself if that wasn't part of the show, right? Oftentimes I am working with people who are not comedians, and my philosophy is, if you are a good teacher, then let's get you on camera teaching. You know, if you are a very thoughtful person, let's get you on camera being thoughtful. You know, my coaching, my one-on-one coaching, I call that soliloquy coaching. If anybody remembers back to freshman year English class, the soliloquy is a term that Shakespeare used, and that is when the character breaks the fourth wall and they speak directly to the audience. It is a trick that has been used in theater for centuries. Shakespeare did it, Ferris Bueller did it, and The Office did it, and Parks and Rec did it, and iCarly did it. There's something about breaking the fourth wall and speaking straight to the audience where you can say pretty much anything, you know? So I say my soliloquy was when I was on stage, you know, doing comedy. It was when I was up giving sales presentations. Some people have their soliloquy at church. You know, some people have their soliloquy coaching their kids' soccer game. You know, they're a very motivational person. They like to inspire people. It's like, you got to figure out what's that version of you that was able to win. You know, what's that version of you that's, you know, in your element, and how can you bring that person back out? You know, when I'm coaching a corporate executive, it's like, you know, you can step into different versions of yourself, right? So when she was running a healthcare company, and I'm like, okay, here's you sitting here in your blazer, in your nice office, because you are a woman who has built a successful business and you know what you're talking about. You are the boss. That is a role you play all the time. You can sit here and deliver information that you know is valuable because you're a boss and you've done this before, and you can provide knowledge to people who want to go that same path. Now, you can also show up maybe in a different room in your house, maybe a little bit more dressed naturally, and maybe you're just Lisa, the gal that people like, you know, the kid who was good at sports, the happy-go-lucky woman who has a family, that people enjoy being around, you got to find a way to tap into that version of yourself if you have a more informal tone. I do a lot of work around vulnerability, because when I'm coaching people to get on video, oftentimes like I'm trying to get them over their personal hangups, their personal insecurities. So I will do things where I'm not being funny at all. And I'm sitting on a couch, I'm sitting on a chair, and I'm speaking to them very seriously about something that's vulnerable. But I'm showing them that they don't have to be on, that you can be a real person. And, it's like I'll kind of bounce around between the comic performer, the sales trainer, and the, vulnerable guy who people can feel comfortable around. Because I'm only going out there for a minute at a time, I can choose which version of myself I want to go out there. But it always comes down to which version does the audience need me to be. Do they need me to be the guy who has done this more successfully than them, that needs to show them the practical steps they need to take to earn money doing this? Or do I need to be, the more open version of myself that encourages them to, hey, it's okay to feel insecure. It's okay to worry about your appearance. This happens to me too. You can do it. We all contain multitudes. And the more I work with people, the more people realize that, oh no, we've got these different roles we step into throughout the day. And you can channel any one of them at any time.
And Chris, like something I see a lot of companies do, and I don't know if it's the right thing or the wrong thing to do. I actually don't really have an opinion on it at this moment in time, but they're all of their videos are professionally made, so they typically tend to include a lot of graphics with maybe some voiceover and music and stuff like that, or with captions, well, like with captions but with no voice. What are your thoughts on those kinds of videos for companies and businesses? Let's imagine it's for social media or a website.
I mean, the reason why people make those videos or make the videos with the AI voices is because it's easier. People would rather not go out there and do it themselves. And I'll get into arguments with people about this all the time, because they're like, well, why don't you just automate your podcast? Why don't you just, generate video scripts? You could generate, they're like, there's entire podcasts that are completely AI generated. And I go, okay, are those the type of podcasts you listen to? How much time do you spend a week listening to purely AI created audio content? It's probably not very much, I'm not saying there isn't a role for that, but you are the face of your business if you run your own company. And I didn't make the rules, but you kind of got to learn to be a media personality to some degree. I didn't create this world where we all have to be YouTube stars. That's just kind of where we ended up, so it's important to like be able to know how to speak in your own voice to your people before you can start automating that. But I will jump on what you said about captions, because I actually feel captions are incredibly important. And this is a part of my business that people don't realize, but I love talking about. So a couple of years ago, when I first started this, part of the reason why I knew I could make it was because I was looking on LinkedIn and none of the videos had captions. I would see people with job titles that said, chief video strategist. There's no captions in the video. And I mentioned earlier, I come from education technology. In education, everything has to be accessible, right? In the United States, it has to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act. And that means your classroom materials need to be compatible with screen readers. And, I was just looking around and I'm like, oh, wow, you can't, if you're deaf, if you don't have headphones in, that's called situational impairment. So, maybe I send a video to a corporate executive and maybe they have no hearing loss whatsoever. They're not deaf, but they're in the back seat of a taxi and they're going to the airport, they're probably not going to go get their headphones out and put it in so they can listen to my message. But if they can see the text on the screen, they will read it. And video has become a reading experience as much as it is a watching experience. And if you're uploading captions or if you're uploading a video to YouTube or to LinkedIn or to TikTok, most of the platforms have auto transcriptions already built in. They are not fully accurate, but if you go edit them, you take 5 minutes to fix the proper nouns, you'll just, more people will see your video, right? More people will watch it, more people will consume it. I actually had a bunch of deaf people were my early fans because I was actually making content that they could enjoy. And I timed the captions so that the jokes read the same way they sound. But also, if you're putting your stuff on YouTube, you have to remember that YouTube is owned by Google, so if you have accurate captions in there, all the things that you're saying are making you more searchable on Google. I use the transcripts for everything. I pull the transcripts from my coaching sessions. This is how I build digital courses. I'm writing a book that I'm trying to get published this year. You probably say a million brilliant things every day. If you have the transcript, you can actually look to see what are the things you're saying all the time to people. And this is going to help you automate your stuff and get your message down. But yeah, you don't need fancy technology to do captions. That technology is only becoming easier and easier. And, more and more video is becoming less about how good is your equipment. And instead it's more about, what do you have to say?
Yes. Oh my gosh, definitely. And I totally agree with you about the captions. I know anytime I see a video of mine that gets uploaded and I've accidentally, the captions haven't embedded or I haven't clicked the button, I kick myself. But yeah, you're so right with the captions. I agree. Because I know myself and my husband, it could be late at night, we're watching TV, we probably are on our phones as well. Let's be real, that's what happens, right? And he likes to watch YouTube videos and stuff about how things are made, and he never has the sound on, so he's reading the captions. That's exactly it. And Chris, I know there are some tools available that can make your videos look good, and specifically tools where you can, the captions come up like karaoke words and stuff like that. Are there any that you recommend if somebody would like to go gung-ho on styling their videos and making them pop a little bit more?
Yeah, so I've got two different frames of mind on that. So one, the easiest one is Descript. I use Descript for my podcasts.
Me too.
It's very popular with podcasters because you can edit your podcast like it's a Word document. And Descript does have those karaoke style, one word at a time captions already built in. However, I will say that those karaoke style captions are actually not good for deaf people.
Okay.
So this is something I learned early on. If you'll notice, if you've ever watched the captions on Netflix or Hulu or Xbox or Disney Plus, they are not doing karaoke style captions. They are doing white text on a black background because that is the easiest format to read. So people get intimidated because if you go on TikTok, you see very flashy graphics where the words are different sizes and they're swirling around and all this crazy creative stuff is happening. If you ever see any of my caption content, that is not how I do my captions. My captions are simple white text on a black background, because remember, oftentimes I am making educational content, I am making direct sales content. I am more interested that they are able to consume my message easily than I am on making it flashy. I can do flashy things on screen. I can play different characters. I can do, there's a lot of different things you can do to make the message interesting. And that comes down to storytelling, and we can talk about that too. But for me, the goal of captions is always, can I make sure the person understands my message? And yeah, if I have correctly spelled, correctly written captions, which is simple white text on a black background, if it's good enough for Netflix, it's good enough for me.
Oh, that's such a great way to put it. I absolutely love that. Yeah, let's talk storytelling. That's my second favorite subject after brand strategy. Oh, maybe it's my first. I don't know. I've got to weigh up the two. So storytelling, let's go.
Yeah. So one of the reasons why I was able to jump headfirst into this business is because my friends who I did comedy with in my 20s, many of them moved to Los Angeles. And one friend in particular is a very successful content creator. He has created $1 million content brand on LinkedIn and TikTok. His audience skews a little younger than me, but if anybody's ever heard of the Try Guys, they have millions and millions of followers online. And he came about in the BuzzFeed days when BuzzFeed was first starting out. My friend Keith started working there when they were really beginning to figure out the science of how to go viral. And I learned a lot from Keith. He was a very valuable mentor when I was first starting my business. But there's always an element of his content that is interactive. And if you hear about Mr. Beast, the biggest YouTuber doing it out there on YouTube right now, he always has an interactive element to his videos too. And, I teach people, like, I'm an improviser by training. And I say what I'm doing out here with the video content, it's improv, not theater. So in theater, especially you think like a Broadway show or something, the performers are up here on the stage and the audience is down here, and the audience sits there and they clap when they're supposed to clap, and the two never meet. In improv, the audience is the show, right? You are right up there with the audience. You are getting their suggestions throughout the show. Sometimes you're pulling them up onto the stage and making them part of the show. And that's how I encourage people to think about video content too. So LinkedIn gets a lot of criticism about its content because it's cheesy, and a lot of it is people think it's very fake. It's people flaunting their wealth and talking about how much money they make and how much successful they are. Oftentimes it's people faking it and making it seem like they're much more successful than they actually are. People who've only been doing sales for 6 months going out there trying to be a sales trainer. And, I like to give the example of, here's 2 different videos that you could do. Like, let's say you're a salesperson who's only been doing sales for 6 months. Now, you could go out there and make a video and say, hey, here's my top 3 tips to smashing your quota, right? That's video number 1. Video number 2 is them going out there and saying, hey, the biggest struggle I have in sales is making 100 dials every day. So I am pledging to you, the audience, that I'm going to make 100 dials a day, and every day at 5 p.m. I'm going to post a video here to tell you how it went. And if you can give me any advice about how to hit 100 dials a day, I sure could use it. So drop it in the comments. Which do you think is going to get more engagement? The second one, because you've invited the audience to play a role. The audience gets to go in there and they get to be the teacher now. They get to share their experience. They get to share their advice. They get to feel smart. And there's something about a live moment that is very exciting. I do a lot of live stunts because my first comedy and show in Chicago was called A Hair Away from Disaster. And that's how I like to play. On April Fool's Day, I went on LinkedIn Live. I turned on my webcam and I had my cell phone set up. And I'm like, I'm going to cold FaceTime people today. That's a thing people joke about. I'm actually going to do it. I'm going to go through here. I'm going to cold FaceTime people live. And let's see if they get mad at me. And again, the audience looks at me like, that's nuts. I would never want to do that. Let's see where he's going with this,
So wait now, back up. Let me check. Do I have this right? So you were streaming live on LinkedIn and saying, hey guys, I am going to do some cold FaceTiming right here on my phone. What? Yeah. Okay. How did it go?
It went great. Turns out it's harder for people to get angry at you when they can actually see your face, But I didn't know. And again, it's like, if it fails, who cares? I just look to the audience. I go, oh, that didn't go very well. Let's try again, And it's that Pixar storytelling principle. It's the number 1 commandment of writing for Pixar, where they say it does not matter if your character succeeds or fails. the audience just wants to watch them try.
Yeah.
That it could be a huge goal, it could be something very small. But yeah, they want to see you facing a challenge. And again, I pointed out to the audience before that I have a saxophone behind me. I have a saxophone behind me because I played saxophone in high school, and then I stopped playing for 15 years. And I wanted to pick it up again. I realized that I'm a video coach, so I have to get people over their fear of failure. And I have to show them that there's no consequence for failing. Sometimes it can work out better for you. So yeah, I got my saxophone out, and I just said to my audience, like, hey, I'm going to start trying to play saxophone again. Let's see how it goes. And it's kind of a long-term gambit. I started playing again, and it was too loud for my neighbors. So now I bought a synthesizer. I have another instrument back there it plays like a saxophone, but I can play hundreds of different instruments. And at the top of my live stream, I play a little ditty. I play a little, 15-second song at the start of each of my episodes. But it's created this game with my audience. Whenever they're scrolling through the feed and they see me playing on this instrument, they're like, oh, I wonder what song he's playing. And the more shows I do, the more clips I have of me playing different songs. Now I can stitch them together and make super cuts of me playing this. And it all leans into my brand, which is like, hey, you just got to go out there on video. You got to get over your nerves. It's okay to fail. And I'm going to prove that to you by going first. I'm going to throw myself in this situation where I might fail. And then, yeah, when you do that, sometimes you end up like it goes really well. And I've got one of my mentors. Have you ever watched the show Ted Lasso?
Yes, I've seen it. I started to watch it. I got into 15 minutes and it wasn't for me.
Got it. Well, it was one of the creators, Brendan Hunt. He's Coach Beard, if anybody's a fan of the show. He was a big influence on me in my 20s because he started a theater called Theater of Ted. And that was one of the first places where I really cut my teeth in my 20s. But it was this midnight theater. It was at Saturday nights at midnight, and anyone could perform. And the only rules was clean up after your act and don't hurt yourself or anybody else. And their motto was dare to suck. Not try to suck, but dare to suck. Go out there and try something big, try something bold. And even if it fails, the audience is going to applaud anyway. And yeah, it taught me that sometimes if you go out there and you try to do something crazy, sometimes it actually just works. With the cold FaceTime with the sketch characters, every single time I do something where I'm like, I don't know, I think this would be fun, but maybe this is a little unprofessional. Just the opposite happens. It ends up being a big hit. And sometimes a consulting deal inbounds in, so again, it's this idea of like, you got to just try stuff. And when the audience likes it, you give them more of it. But no matter what, you got to make sure you pull them in the first 3 seconds.
I love that. And, I actually interviewed another Chris on the show recently, and Chris got an amazing gig from LinkedIn Learning because he did a rap. He did a rap about project management, and LinkedIn Learning reached out to him and hired him because it was like, I think it was a video, maybe it was audio, I don't know. But yeah, that's how he got an amazing gig with LinkedIn Learning. And the thing that's really still jumping out at me and giving me the heebie-jeebies or like making me nervous about doing videos like that, Chris, is I love that, your uniqueness comes through with your natural creativity from the comedy and the music stuff. But for the rest of us who are maybe not so creative, what can we do to stand out in that hook for those first 3 seconds to capture people's attention so they will actually stop scrolling and pay attention to the video?
Yeah, so skip the exposition is usually my advice. So usually when I am like coaching somebody on video, the first opening of their video is like them explaining to the audience who they are and why they're qualified to speak. And it's like the audience doesn't need to hear that. Like you can skip. Like I like to throw my audience in the middle of the problem, and showing is better than telling. You know, if you can show them something, that is the most like effective way. And oftentimes it's like rhetorically, you're just starting in the middle of the problem, you know, and it could be like, all right, I need to decide between this or this. Pause. You know, you've just introduced a dilemma to your audience. You know, maybe they're going to go one way, maybe they're going to go the other way. Maybe they don't know which of these two answers is the right answer. I guess I'm going to listen to what this woman has to say and see where she's going with it. You know, and you know, this could be as simple as like some text on screen. You know, this is really going to terrify you, so my apologies for this, but my YouTube friend told me every 5 to 10 seconds you could lose your audience.
That doesn't surprise me. That really doesn't surprise me, because if people are scrolling, they might stop for the first 3 seconds. If it's not interesting, move on and stuff. So yeah, that doesn't surprise me. But I think the same happens with text images or carousel posts on social. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to surprise your audience. Ideally, you want each moment to lead to the next moment. But yeah, that change can be any number of things, right? So if you're a video creator, like I pay for stock media, which is helpful. I spend $30 a month on a Storyblocks subscription. Storyblocks provides stock music, stock audio effects, stock images, and I can use it all, you know, for commercial content. So, you know, it's every 5 seconds, like maybe I'm going to add a visual in there. Maybe I'll add some text on screen. Maybe I'll add some sound or music. Or maybe it's just a change in emotion, you know? But it's like you have these tools to like try to vary it up. But again, a first line of dialogue can really do a lot, you know? And the other tip I'll give the audience here is that you have to remember that the human experience is complicated, and there are more emotions to tap into other than just extreme joy or extreme anger or extreme sadness. And I feel like a lot of the content on LinkedIn is either like, oh, I was so destitute, I was so this and that, but now look how rich I am, you know? And if you start the video by just being like, here's something that confuses me a little bit. I've never understood why blank happens instead of blank. You know, it is a different emotion than people are used to. Maybe I'm amused by something. Maybe I'm curious about something. Maybe I'm sentimental about something. I try to lock into one emotion and just give it straight to my audience. And you know, the more you just tell the truth, the more this is going to come out. I was taught at Second City to play to the top of your intelligence. Say the thing that's real, even if you think there's a joke you've heard before that you think the audience might like better. You know, the boring details are what people relate to, you know. So don't try to dress it up and make it more exciting than it actually is. The real details are what people identify with. And yeah, there's different formats too. There's a million of these. You know, you can be the contrarian. That's an easy one. Where you go, okay, everybody says this. Here's why I do the opposite. That's a hook, right? Maybe you're the person who believes that thing and you're like, what? That's not true. I gotta listen to this person. What? Or maybe your person is like, I don't believe that either. I'm gonna listen. This person gets me, you know. But again, I've just stopped you there, you know. And the more you do it, the more you'll find like just different ways to showcase it, you know. But even like a simple thing is like, you know, I was at home for Father's Day and I look exactly like my dad. And I was just like, Dad, you want to jump on video with me? And he's like, all right. And it's like, it's just me and my dad sitting there. And I asked him a couple questions. It was a 1-minute video, but it did great. And I put it out there on Father's Day. And again, it was real and it was different. And it's now you see two people. People originally told me they thought I had deep faked myself and like artificially aged myself. I'm like, no, that's just what my dad looks like. He looks exactly the same as me. But yeah, it was giving them something they didn't see before. And, again, it's like people overthink this, but sometimes it's like you show an object to the camera, like sit there and you've got a book. It's like, I found my diary back when I was 17. So I've changed a lot, but here's something that I noticed is still the same as an adult. You pulled them into the story, and again, you don't need to explain to them why it's worthwhile for you to watch. They're going to decide whether or not they want to start watching. So again, I start in the middle of the story. And usually when I'm coaching people, I'll review like a 6-minute video and I end up saying, okay, here at the 2-minute 17-second mark, you had this little aside and it was this little natural moment that you kind of had fun with. That's going to be the start of the video. And we're going to write the 45-second version of that. And instead of saying all this stuff, let's just communicate one idea to them. We're going to teach them one thing. We're going to share one thing with them. Maybe we just want to get one feeling out of them. By the end of the video, I want them to feel something. But yeah, give them something real, give them something unexpected in that first 3 seconds, and then try to just get to the point as quickly as possible. And if it's a big hit and everybody loves it, you can always bring it back later. You can always find different ways to explore that idea. But you got to start.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, folks. I hope you have a pen and notepad, or you've got the notes app open on your phone or whatever, because Chris is really sharing some incredible value bombs there with what he's just been telling you. Chris, that's incredible. Have you got any last final tips for my amazing audience or anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up?
Can I plug my course?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So if anybody's a big fan of me, you can find me on LinkedIn. That is the best place to follow me. You can ring my bell. I'm a content creator. I'm always putting content out there. I post a lot about video content, video for sales, also a bit about comedy and improv theory. So you get more into that. I also sell a course. My course is called The Complete Guide to Selling on Video. You can purchase that through chrisbogue.io, which is my website. So it's about 2.5 hours long. We go deep on video for every aspect of your sales pipeline. We go through the scripting, we go through editing and captioning, we go through outbound on LinkedIn and Gmail, and every module ends with a comedy sketch that pulls you into the next module. So you can check that out. And if you want something free, you can listen to my podcast. You can find Chris Sells His Soul wherever you get podcasts. Is conversations about monetizing creativity. So sometimes we're talking about sales, sometimes we're talking about marketing or entrepreneurship. Sometimes I'm bringing in comedians or video content creators. But yeah, it is conversations about how to get on video, how to use your creative skills to monetize yourself and grow your business and grow your audience. And yeah, that's Chris Sells His Soul on Apple or Spotify or Google or wherever you get your podcasts.
Amazing. Thank you, Chris. I'll be sure that we share it in the show notes. So anybody, you can head over to the show notes, check it out there. Or if you sign up for the Master Your Business newsletter, you will get all of the information in there too. So Chris, it's been an incredible pleasure having you on. Oh my gosh, talk about umpteen value bombs. Incredible stuff. Thank you again, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
Wow, what a show that has been. I hope this episode has left you feeling ready to unleash that inner video star and engage your audience like never before. I want to extend a massive thank you to our fantastic guest, Chris Bogue. Chris, your insights, tips, and tricks on video content creation have been nothing short of transformative. And I am confident that our listeners now have the tools they need to use video more effectively and authentically in and throughout their business journey. I can certainly tell you, I am going to be taking up lots of those tips and probably showing up on camera a little bit more. Maybe, probably. Okay, I need to commit, don't I? Yeah, okay, a little bit more. So for all of you listening, remember Chris's mantra: be authentic, be engaging, and most importantly, be yourself. That's the key. By creating video content that resonates with your audience and helps you elevate your engagement online, all of that can result in increased sales. And as Chris mentioned, video is not only a powerful tool for social media, but also a great asset in your overall sales process. So go ahead and give it a try. I really will. I will. You can hold me accountable if I don't. And remember, it's all about being direct, supportive, and entertaining, all while having fun. Now, before we wrap things up, a quick reminder: if you enjoyed today's episode and you're finding value in the podcast, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review the Master Your Business podcast wherever you're listening to the show. Your support is what keeps us going, and it's the best way for us to continue bringing you expert advice and tips to help you master your business. So that's it for today's show, folks. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and until next time, keep mastering your business.